podcast is brought to you by Vanguard Connect and 20-something podcast. Happy Mother's Day to everyone. I hope everyone had a nice Mother's Day. Hope you cooked your mum something good. Hope all the mothers had something good. Okay, so let me introduce Peter, who is the founder of Vanguard Connect, before we get straight into the podcast.
Cool. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you to everyone who's listening in as well, and thank you to the speakers we have today. We've got Kenny, we've got Natty, Tolani, Dele, and Mems. And just to remind everyone that the aim of tonight is to engage, educate, and empower our listeners on issues that are pertaining to those of African and Caribbean communities, and focus mainly on solutions, because a lot of the time people are aware but don't necessarily understand why such issues are important. They don't understand why, let alone that it is important. And it's not just important to a certain kind of people, it's important to us all. And we were supposed to have someone who's a member of Vanguard Connect on the show, Priscilla Mensah, but unfortunately she is a final year student and she has a lot of work to do actually tonight. She's working on a dissertation, so she does send her apologies. However, we're still going to talk about Priscilla and celebrate her. So congratulations to Priscilla when you do listen to this, because Priscilla recently, as many of us know, became the first black female president of the Cambridge University Students' Union. And this is going to be a role, yes, upcoming for when she graduates. And why this was amazing in particular is because it was the highest voter turnout in over 10 years, or in 10 years, with over 4,000 students turning out and voting. And it was a landslide victory. I mean, she won by over 500 votes. So this is incredible. And we don't necessarily need to go into why specifically it's amazing that she's the first black female president of the Students' Union. We've also got Kenny Mafidon here today. Kenny Mafidon is a political commentator and he's the author of the Kenny Reports. How you doing today, bro?
Yeah, I'm alright. Yourself?
I'm good, bro, man. Thank you so much for joining us. And I was just going to ask you firstly, why is it important, in your opinion, for young people, especially those from African and Caribbean communities, to vote? As we know, the elections are coming up within the UK pretty soon.
Obviously, so the election is happening on May the 7th, for those who don't know. The reason I would say it's important because, well, really, if you don't vote, then politicians won't listen to you. Politicians only fair people who they feel that basically will actually vote for them and will actually exercise their right to vote. The problem is right now that a lot of youth aged 18 to 24 are not voting. In the last general election, we had less than 1 in 4 young people actually turn out to vote. And we've literally seen what's happened since the coalition government has come into power. And this is not just the coalition government. This will happen if any of the parties come into power and they realize that youth are not voting. We've faced the brunt of the cuts. We've been hit the hardest in terms of tuition fees, EMA, the services in our communities. It's all been slashed. So that's why it's important that we do vote, we do participate. And also important that we stand to be candidates. Of course, I know there's issues with that, but it's important that we try our best with that.
Yeah, totally agree, man. And again, congratulations on finishing the Kenny Report 3. Now, tell us in a nutshell exactly what is the Kenny Report. What's the Kenny Report 3?
So the Kenny Report 3 is just literally a publication to raise awareness on issues in relation to crime and punishment, housing, education, employment, enterprise, equality and gender, you name it. So it covers 8 big topics, and it looks at the issues which affect young people and solutions to those issues.
Awesome. And how do our listeners, especially our members in Vanguard Connect, how do we get involved with the launch of the Kenny Report 3?
So the Kenny Report 3 will be launched on April the 8th at 6:30 p.m. in Euston, in Friend's house. They can literally go onto the Kenny Report page on Facebook, or just go onto Eventbrite and type Kenny Report 3 launch, and they can get a free ticket there. And obviously donations are more than welcome.
Cool. Again, congratulations on that, big bro. And I will be posting up information on the Kenny Report 3 this commencing week so we can get involved. But yeah, without further ado, back to you, Naomi.
Okay, great. Thank you, Peter. Okay, so let's get straight into it. I'm just going to ask all the guest speakers to introduce themselves very briefly. So, Natty, if we could start with you.
Greetings. Yeah, my name is Natty. I am a boy. I'm a singer, songwriter, um, label kind of person, event producer, youth worker, all sorts of things. But essentially, what ones and ones will know me for is the music, which is singing and producing.
Thank you. Mems?
Hi everyone, my name's Mems. I'm currently a student of at University of Warwick, and I'm currently the president of the Warwick Anti-Racism Society. And yeah, I'm into like politics and social justice and stuff.
Thank you very much. Dele?
Hey everyone. So my name is Dele. I am a final year medical student at King's College London at the moment. And I'm very interested in healthcare and education particularly.
Great, thank you. And Tolani?
Hey everyone, my name's Talani. I'm a final year student. I study IT at Coventry University. Outside of university, I'm a social entrepreneur and I work with Project Bisky.
Thank you guys. Okay, so let's jump straight into it. I got my herbal tea. I'm excited for some good conversation. First topic is Black Lives Matter. I'm just going to say a brief overview. I'm sure everybody's heard of Black Lives Matter campaign, but let's just go over it again. So this was a movement started after a 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was killed and thus put on trial from the grave for his own death after being shot and murdered by George Zimmerman. So Black Lives Matter is an attack on anti-black systems that sort of permeate through society, and this movement has transcended Twitter and social media for the most part and taken to the streets all over the world. So I read a stat a while ago and I tried desperately to find it. It was on Twitter, and it said that since Black Lives Matter campaign had started, that police brutality had dropped significantly. I think it was somewhere between 15 and 30%. So I just wanted from that to go and ask you, Natty, if we could start with you. What do you think the effects are of the Black Lives Matter campaign, and is this the most effective form of protest?
The effects, like you said, I read that as well actually, in terms of the police brutality decreasing, but the way I know of police and growing up in this area here is that it goes in bumps and waves. I remember when Stephen Lawrence occurred there as well. Wow. Yeah, I think I was first touching the road, and I was just about to touch the road when it was Stephen Lawrence was occurring. That was about a little while ago now still, but I remember again, it was up and down like that. So I don't know how much in terms of long term this will be of effect and this will take effect. I know that one thing I am seeing is I'm seeing unity in the community, and this is something which is I take as a positive coming out of that. And the one thing that I can say about all of these deaths of young black boys is that it is awakening certain people, maybe not enough right now, but it is definitely awakening and bringing together and making, especially the older generation, realize, well, hang on a minute, our sons and daughters, are they really safe on these streets? Yeah. So I would say, in terms of Black Lives Matter, where we're going with that, I used to run and jump on the streets and march and protest. I'm not really so much into it right now, you know. I don't know how much that helps. When I look at the term black unity and that, I'm looking more at black economics. One thing I know about everything is that we can march until kingdom come, but if we ain't got no money, they're not listening. Or if we're not stopping them from spending their money, if you understand, like if we all stop going to work, like Tuskegee, like wherever, you know. So on one level, yeah, it's a good hashtag, it's a good promoting, it's good for bringing in the unity. So for me, it's like, cool, next step now.
So Mems, do you think this is the most effective form of protest?
I really like the whole hashtag situation. So at Warwick, we had held a vigil for Mike Brown because of the hashtag. A lot of our members didn't really understand the intensity of police brutality until they went on Twitter and saw everyone talking about it. When it comes to protest, I believe that that's one of the best ways to show that we are totally against police brutality. And what the Black Lives Matter hashtag did is that united people from all around the world. Even, as I said, at Warwick, a very small university that hasn't got a great black population, but it brought people from all around the world to say this isn't right, we need to stop it. And in the same way, it kind of showed how bad the US police system is. It brought up other issues such as poverty that the black community goes through, and vice versa. So I think going out to protest is great as well, because when you go out to protest, you meet people who believe in the same thing that you do, and it is a sense of unity. I do totally agree about the whole we need to do other things as well, but grassroots organisations is always good.
And you mentioned that you had a protest at your university,
yeah,
of Warwick. So what do you think the effects on Black Lives Matter campaign? What do you think the effects are to the African diaspora, specifically in the UK?
Well, when we decided, the Warwick Anti-Racism Society actually brought up the whole thing and said, let's do a vigil. And the thing that it did, it kind of brought people, because at Warwick we have a wide range of students, international students from all parts of the world, and it kind of brought us all together to say that this is wrong, and it put the whole thing about empathy. We were like, if we were in America and if we had the characteristics of Mike Brown, we could have suffered the same thing. And it kind of brought it back to us why we are at university and why we're doing these things. It's because we want to go against these stereotypes that are affecting our community. So even though we are at Warwick, as I said, a very small university, it still kind of like rang a bell that we are very lucky, and we are doing this to make sure that future generations don't have to deal with the racism subjection, to be honest. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And Della, do you think we could possibly make this campaign more impactful?
Yeah, so I think just to start off with, I definitely agree with both Natty and Mems as far as the effectiveness of such a campaign. I think it's important to show the things that you really care about and show people that may be doing certain things against you that you're not going to stand up for it or stand for it, should I say. I think equally you should have other things in place as well, right? So Natty, for example, touched on the economic aspect of things, and I think one thing that we should definitely do now is see what we can build on the back of Black Lives Matter, see sort of what else we can do to actually have a full impact. So how can we take this idea and how can we take this frustration and channel it into something that actually means a lot more for us? And that's something I'm sort of trying to think about at the moment as well.
Okay, thank you. I want to, I'm trying to get through all the topics today, so I think we can leave it at that. I think for myself, I think to make it more impactful, as Natty said, it's about economics. It's about finding a way to make our economic power enough for them to listen to us, whether that be through, as I've said before, through hair shops, because that's where we spend a lot of money, or so be it. But I do think that economic power is very important to making Black Lives Matter even more impactful. But we're going to go on now to the next topic, which is Oscars So White. So that's a hashtag that was formed on Twitter, a campaign because Oscars is said to be quite Eurocentric. It's underrepresented. We are underrepresented within the Oscars. So the Oscars are determined by the Academy of Motion Pictures and Sciences, and those people that sit on the panel are mostly white and they're mostly male. And so in the 87 years of there being Oscars, 31 out of 2,947 winners have been black. That number might have gone up after the last Oscars. In 2002, Halle Berry was the first and only black woman to win Best Actress. So I wanted to talk about what that means and whether that, which I believe, whether that speaks about the wider issue of there not being enough black people being represented in Hollywood as a whole? Dele, could you come in here first?
Yeah, so you said that there's sort of like 31, I think, black winners overall, right? Since the Oscars began. It doesn't actually surprise me. I don't know if it surprises anyone, but it doesn't surprise me, right? Because as far as us being in any sort of positions where, you know, we've had meaningful input on anything, we've really been restricted for a very long time. And I think that's sort of been in all areas. So in sport, it's only in the sort of last 20, 30 years that we've really been able to start making a name for ourselves. And it's sort of the same thing in the sort of film industry as well. I think as far as the Oscars goes, I understand sort of why it's happened. As far as acceptance goes, no, I don't think like I'm willing to accept that. And I think it is, as you just asked, very sort of indicative of the fact that there aren't that many black people with prominent roles in Hollywood as it stands. And I think before we can start addressing the Oscar situation, we have to definitely address that and say, okay, cool. How are we being, how are we being excluded from this sort of arena? And how can we actually make sure that anybody who's young and black is confident enough and has the right access to such industries?
And so you're saying, what do you think that says about Hollywood as a whole? I mean, are we often portrayed as the protagonist? What do you think?
So I think in a lot of things that you see in Hollywood, right, like it depends where you look. So if you look at sort of the Denzels or the Will Smiths, like the people that really have like the biggest roles, the biggest sort of black roles in Hollywood, I think they're big enough that they don't have to fit the sort of general black stereotype, right? But at the same time, a large amount of the people, black actors in Hollywood or actresses in Hollywood, do sort of have to play a character that is quite sort of telling as far as the general wider view of black society goes.
And Talani, I know we were talking about this before we went on air, and I was saying, well, should our community focus on creating our own platforms? Is that the way forward, or do you think that we should just keep on fighting and pushing until we are accepted on platforms such as the Oscars?
Sometimes if people won't open the door for you, you have to build your own door. So yes, I do believe we should have our own platform, but well, we can do it for our own selves, but I do believe that we should also be able to win on other people's platforms. If we believe in inequality and etc., I believe that we should create platforms that are equal for everyone. So even when we do create our own platform, is it only going to be black people only, or is it going to be equal? Because could you clarify that, please? When you say create our own platform, will it only be for black people? Because if we do that, then we're being hypocrites ourselves, if you know what I mean.
I think that speaks of a wider issue. So do you think that when black people say SEO or the BET Awards, do you think that is racist then?
No, I don't believe it is. I believe, I'm missing a quote. She said that, what was it? I was on a blog. It was talking about cultural appropriation, and it was saying how these things are not racist because mainstream is racist. But in this case, we are, I don't know, it's a bit, okay, this is something that I do battle with. I don't know, like we should create our own platforms, but I still believe we should be able to be in the Oscars because Oscars is the legendary move, and there's this new catchphrase, I think it's called the old school boys, and as Dele pointed out, we've only been in the game for baby years compared to how long these industries have been going on for. So it will take a lot of work, but just for us to have our own legacies, we should create our own platforms. But I still believe that we should be able to have black winners in the Oscars because it's about talent as well. And also with the Academy, it's sometimes people are going to vote for their own kind. Like sometimes we're guilty of it. We see someone black, like, oh yeah, you want to relate to your brother or sister, but maybe we should have more black people in the Academy as well. I don't know. That's just fine.
That's it. And Natty, could you come in here before you just start speaking? Can I just remind everyone? Sorry, I should have said before to use the hashtag VC podcast to join in with the conversation, and we'll read out your tweets as the podcast goes along. So Natty, what are your thoughts on this subject?
For me, the Oscars and essentially the movie industry in itself is one of the propaganda machines for white supremacy. And so what I mean by that is that if I'm gonna go in and try and win an Oscar or something like that, you mentioned Halle Berry. For me, that was the most degrading role that I've seen her do in terms of, and she won an Oscar for it. And for me, it's one where I don't really want to be accepted in that circus. And if certain black people have the ambition to be accepted in that, then that is good. And I understand the respect that goes with the Oscar in terms of the movie game, the whole movie industry. It is the most well respected, just like the Grammys are within the music industry, etc., etc., etc. Now, black people have upheld the American establishment. In fact, the American establishment was built on the backs and on the blood of black people. So for me, it's a thing where we have been in this game for long enough. You watch Gone to the Wind, you watch all them other films, and it's essentially, I do not feel that it is necessary to be jumping in there and asking for acceptance within their realms, because I didn't build that and I've got nothing to do with that. Now,
So
with the
just to interrupt, if I may, we've got a tweet in from Yao Okiri. Thanks for your tweet, bro. And Yao's asked the question, what's the percentage of black to white actors and how does that correlate to black to white Oscar winners? So I think what Yao is talking, or yeah, what his question relates to is, should we necessarily be shocked that there are a significant amount of black, of white winners
I don't think
in
anyone's
comparison to
shocked.
black?
It's 2%. 2%.
Did you just Google that?
No, I saw it before we came on.
So should we be shocked then?
Does that not say about a wider issue of black actors and actresses not being casted for roles?
The thing about acting is that I don't know if you guys have seen the latest articles on the Telegraph, maybe because I have a few actors on my Facebook, and a problem is the amount of money it takes to get into acting right now, and you basically need a lot of money for these acting schools and etc. Well, this is I don't know how it works in America, but in the UK it's very expensive, and they're saying that part of the lack of ethnic minorities in the acting industry is actually because of the costs that are associated with it. Not saying that every black actor can't afford it, but they were saying that most part of the reason is because of the costs.
But it's also the industry that's designed to promote certain peoples, no? And certain genders.
That's a debate that's going on now, which I still need to follow up before I answer.
But Natty, how are you saying you don't wish to be involved in the Oscars because it's not for you? What do you think a solution is then? What would you want to be involved with if you were an actor or an actress?
For me, it wouldn't be looking at award ceremonies, it would be looking at films. So if you start to create your own industry, like Nollywood, like Bollywood, but it's dealt within realms that can be appealing to all cultures, and it's just basically respected for its art, then I think we're talking about something when it's creating an industry. Because creating an awards ceremony which is still based around films that aren't really promoting agendas that I pay much attention to, I don't know.
Okay.
Understand.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Talani.
You know, for example, every industry has this type of professional body. For example, I'm an IT student. You have the British Computing Society, and it's just I feel like the Oscar. Correct me if I'm wrong. Oscars is like that professional body, the people you want to be not recognized for, but it's just I know it's bad. Basically, accredits your reputation, I guess, if you have a pat on the back. I don't feel like it's them trying to. For black actors, let me say, I don't think it's them trying to get a pat on the back from Oscars. It's just to be recognized by what we call experts in the field. I don't feel necessarily that it's because they want to get a pat on the back, even though that may be the case for some people.
Mm-hmm. So, Mems, what are your thoughts on this whole debate here?
Well, I really want to especially what Tony said, the fact that to go to acting school cost a bomb. one of my cousins is trying to go into acting, and him as a black man understands the financial costs it has, the implications it has. So that's already put the black community at a disadvantage. If you actually look at every type of role, for example, let's take football. There's so many football players who are amazing, but how many do you see in the top positions as managers? So you have to kind of look that there's an institutional problem in a lot of aspects within our society. Even, for example, the Grammys, where we have some of the best rappers in the world, such as Tupac, Biggie, who have never ever won an award. And we have this whole thing with Macklemore and Iggy, when they just win awards on the back. So we have to kind of question the institutional problems. And I definitely agree with Natty. You know, we do have to have a platform for ourselves where we can say, you know, this is for us. Bollywood has championed that. You know, Bollywood has been able to say, we don't need Hollywood. We've already, you know, we've got a place to celebrate our own culture. But it still doesn't mean that we should not question the Oscars or the Grammys or these professional boards on why they are so severely lacking. And the person on Twitter who did ask that question, yes, it's true, we are not the majority. We've never ever said that. But if you kind of look at the amount of films that has had amazing actors, you know, amazing black actors, you just don't have any sort of recognition. And, you know, it's very disappointing to watch, you know, every year kind of think that's going to get better. You know, we've had a black, you know, president, for crying out loud. Why can't we have, you know, someone in a role? So I think we do have to look at the grassroots problem, which is we need to fund more ethnic minorities when it comes to going to art school, and we still need to question these boards in why they're not, you know, trying or looking at why they haven't given Oscars to black people.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I'm just breaking up here, so there might be a bit of a lag. I can see Peter was smirking because this is going to bring us, your comments are just bringing us on nicely to the next part of the show, because you mentioned Iggy Azalea. Let's talk about cultural appropriation. I see a lot of tweets about cultural appropriation on a daily basis, but I think it's necessary for me to read out exactly what it is, just so that we're working to the same definition. So cultural appropriation is the adoption of elements of one culture by members of a different cultural group, who may eventually become the new face of said cultural practices, passing the illusion that certain cultural practices are authentic to them. And I want to pose the question, why is cultural appropriation, and Natty, I can see you smiling, so I'll start with you. Why is cultural appropriation so devastating, particularly to our community? If you want to bring in Iggy Azalea, please feel free.
Why is it that's such a big question. Why is it damaging to our community? There's about 100 answers to that. In fact, there's probably more than 100. But let me try with one or two. Okay, cultural appropriation. We've been making stuff for maybe thousands of years. I'd say maybe hundreds of thousands of years we've been making stuff. They've been taking stuff for maybe like a couple thousand years now. And so it's a thing where actually creating and making is within our spirit, is within our DNA. And cultural appropriation, I don't really know what that means apart from stealing the vibes from black people, because it doesn't really go the other way. I don't see it, if you see what I'm saying. I don't know, but maybe it does when you see them, certain man in certain suit, maybe, I don't know. But for me, it's a thing where the cultural appropriation that is happening specifically in the public eye and in the public domain is something that I do not want to be associated with Iggy Azalea. She is not culturally appropriating me. She's taken some deformed characteristics of something that really and truly I can relate to it, yeah, because I grew up in the bits, so I can relate. But on a certain level, I can't relate to it at all. And so there are many things, starting with Elvis, going all the way right down to, I was having conversations the other day, you know, like even when I audition drummers, it's a mad thing, you know. Right now I've got a white drummer, and it's like, he's banging. There's that, but he studied the thing hard in Africa. Is that cultural appropriation? There's many levels towards the thing. And what I would say is that if we can just really start to look at stuff like economics, again, I know I said it before, but if we can start to own things like our own labels, our own studios, just within keeping it within the music realms, then it doesn't really matter, you know, because right now, you know, for example, if Dr. Dre had taken Eminem to a black man, not Jimmy Iovine, like a white man who runs da-da-da-da, but let me just say, well, it doesn't even need to be black, really, just someone who overstands the culture. So let's say Dr. Dre takes him to somewhere else, and this person is overstanding black culture as well. Dr. Dre is going to be earning a percentage of Eminem's thing, and these people are going to be earning a percentage of Eminem's thing. Probably a higher percentage than Eminem will be earning of his own thing. So if it was that way around, I'd say that's kind of fair. So again, I would look at the economics all and say, would we really be calling out anything if we were in control of what it is that we were doing? But the whole music industry was based upon black people writing songs and other people coming in and say, that sounds good, let me record it, and we're going to put it out. So essentially, cultural appropriation, that is like the whole music industry.
I very much agree, and I think the problem with cultural appropriation and the problem with Iggy Azalea, and I keep on talking about Iggy Azalea because people keep on asking, is it that bad? Is she is a white woman who grew up in Australia. So why she is trying black is very detrimental, because other communities and even ourselves will start to think that that is what black is. So I was going to ask you then, Dele, is black culture constantly a victim of cultural appropriation? Oh, okay, can't hear. I'll ask you then, Tulani.
Yes, I believe even with music, it started with us, to be honest. And one of the most controversial things is rock and roll. We all know Chuck Berry started that. Is it Chuck Berry? Sorry. But it's just so funny because what I did is I actually looked. I know about Chuck Berry, but I just had to go. I went to Google, and it said Elvis Presley. What? I'm sure Elvis Presley wasn't around when he was out, and well, he wasn't. Yeah, he wasn't on the scene then. And it's just like, give credit where it's due. Honestly, give credit where it's due. And this is the problem, that when we're talking with Iggy, for example, I think one of the reasons why Iggy was very, well, not remorseful was because she's thinking, this has been going on for long. Why is it that when I come, all of a sudden there's a problem? But it's just like, she's probably confused. She doesn't understand that it's been going on for long. You're not even the problem, but you're just one of the, I think it's because, what's the girl's name? Is it Azealia Banks?
Yeah, Azealia Banks, yeah.
Yeah, she brought it up, which I think was a bit bitter, but yeah. And it's just,
Why is it bitter?
Sorry?
Why is it bitter of her to bring it up?
Because if she had that problem, if she was very passionate about it, why didn't she bring it up to the other artists? There's artists before her who've been doing it. But I don't know. I won't say it's bitter. But I don't even know. I just feel like
To jump in here, just very briefly, I want some of us to expand on why cultural appropriation is important. Why or how does it affect the psyche of a young man growing up in London? For the listeners out there, because a lot of the time it can seem that it's a situation that people just complain about a lot of the time. And if Iggy makes good music, let her make good music. So please expand in your own words why you think it's important, what it does to the psyche of young males and females, be that they're black or white. What does this make them feel of themselves?
For the person
And
who's
what's acceptable?
from the person who's from the culture that's being copied, it's especially as a young person, it's like they reprogram your mind with the wrong information, and it's like you don't feel a sense of pride unless you know your history or your background, because what you've been taught is that the white people created it first. They've been doing it originated from them, and realistically it's not like that. That's my explanation.
Bems, do you want to come in here?
Yeah, I mean, like for example, the thing is, let's say with Iggy and Eminem was appreciating hip hop within his work.
Yeah.
Lyrically, he never said anything that was derogatory to our community. He actually talked about how it helped him as an individual and helped him as an artist. The difference with Iggy is that there's certain aspects of her that, for example, let's take her body image. Ti is the person that's managing her, and as a black man, I think that's one of the issues. Like Azealia has a problem with him, but for example, let's take her body shape. Our body shape as a black woman, our body shape is kind of much more voluptuous and curvy. And for a while, it was never seen as attractive. For a long time, it was very seen as very grotesque. And people kind of looked at it as more animalistic. It was never something that people wanted to do. Same thing with Kim Kardashian. But however, as soon as it's put onto a white woman, a Caucasian woman, it's seen as something as beautiful, sexy, and it's appreciated more in that. So that's one of the reasons Iggy has been a problem in our community. She's done it for other communities, for example, the whole bindi wearing and the whole sari wearing, just dancing around the videos and not actually understanding the cultural implications it has with it. So when people say, Eminem's, why is it okay for Eminem to do it and Iggy not to do it? Eminem appreciates our music and gives credit where it's due. Iggy does not. And the fact that she hasn't come out and said, okay, I didn't know, I'm sorry, but she still continues to do it, shows that there is an issue with it.
Mm-hmm. The lack of.
Could I continue? Sorry.
It also might be to do with where she's from as well, though.
Sorry?
Yeah.
Where she's from. She's from Australia.
Yeah.
There's a thing even within Australians. I can give you one little small point on being from Australia. I've got a good Australian friend. She's hip to the world, for whatever you might want to say, and stuff like that. And so she comes back from holiday and she says to me, "Oh, I'm so brown. Yeah, me and my friends are so brown. It's mad. Here I look like a nigger. It's crazy." And so I'm like, all right. And she said this to me. Okay. And so I'm like, all right, word. Okay. So what I'm trying to tell you is that there are actual cultural ways in which certain people can take on something. They don't even know what they're doing. Eminem grew up poor and part of the underclass, like black people, within the certain realms there. So he's going to have certain understanding how to conduct himself in and amongst black people within his within the music industry. Elvis Presley, we can keep going back to Elvis Presley a little bit, but I guess what I'm saying is, looking at this from my perspective, to go to what Peter was saying, is that from my perspective, I can look at Eminem and be like, rah, all of a sudden he's top 5 rappers ever voted by the public. All of a sudden he's platinum, triple platinum, and he's getting the boost more than a whole heap of rappers were at the time when he was getting the boost that he was getting. And same thing like you see with what's the name? Izzy? I don't know. Iggy Azalea. Yeah, Iggy. Okay. Same thing like Iggy is now. And for me, I don't really have any blame. I don't attach any blame to Iggy, because I think she's a product of her environment.
Yeah.
Again, I think like that Australian girl who I gave the example of just now, I don't attach any blame to them. Just like I've got no problem with the BNP. I've got no problem with the NFs and that, because they're all dumb products of their environment. I don't have a problem. I've got a problem with the big man upstairs who is creating the environments. And so for me, it was a thing where right from Elvis, right through to Eminem, right through to Iggy, I think that we can look as black people and be like, rah, so how come when I do that, it's peak, but when they do that, it's like they open the lane for them clear. I know that a lot of rappers can struggle, and a lot of rappers will have to sell themselves out to do many, many things. I've seen a whole heap of tomfoolery and all sorts to try and get a record deal lately, more than ever. Which certain cultural appropriators don't need to do as much. So it is a deep one within the music industry, for sure. It is.
And for me to jump in here, if I may, sorry, we've got a couple of tweets in. We have one from Adams Edible, who says, contrary to what's been mentioned, Adams says, Iggy did not appropriate anything, but we willingly gave it away. We have a false sense of ownership, which we need to dispel. We have another tweet from Elle Michelle. Thank you for your tweet. She says, it wasn't bitter for Azalea to bring it up. However, the way in which she delivered it came across as bitter or jealous. A message
Yeah,
can be
sorry, that's what
wrongly
I was saying.
interpreted if it's not delivered well.
Yeah, fair enough. I agree with that, and I think Natty hit the nail on the head. I don't agree with Agizila, for anyone who's listening. I don't agree with what she's about, but I just feel like like Natty said, she's a product of the environment, and it's been going on for so long. Even with our artists, I don't. It's just the first person said, we need to set our standards for ourselves, number one, first, before we set standards for others. And it's just this whole culture appropriation. It's been going on in the music industry for so long. It's like Iggy came, and she's just another one that's been used by the men upstairs, and it's just like.
What do you mean by setting standards for us ourselves?
I mean, like, I think from what I got from that is that we can't really have a go at Iggy when we have someone like Kanye saying that racism doesn't exist anymore, or having Pharrell saying something like racism
Yes.
doesn't exist anymore. Do you get what I mean? We have to say it, we have to kind of agree in our community that certain boundaries can't be crossed. So, you know, I do understand the whole, you know, Iggy was such, like, you know, for example, Crenshaw, she was a rapper who grew up in Harlem with A$AP Rocky, and she said that was just, you know, the N-word was something she grew up with. But we can't, you know, have a go at Iggy when, you know, people are still supporting Kanye and Pharrell and these post-black, you know, individuals who believe that racism isn't a thing anymore because they're rich. You know, it doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
Okay, anyone have anything to say before we round up this topic?
Yes, just very briefly, I've got personal messages in regards to the previous topic about black people being represented more. Oh, Dele's back. Hey, Dele. But I got a few messages regarding black people being represented in movies. And I always like to give a particular scenario of black superheroes. If we were to ask how many black superheroes are pushed, I mean, blockbuster Hollywood standard, the only ones you can really think of are Blade with Wesley Snipes and Hancock by Will Smith, who some would agree is the trophy black
Was that
actor.
really pushed though?
And what, Hancock? I don't think
No,
Blade
Blade.
was. However, Blade wasn't exactly. Those are different reasons which we both know about. And Wesley Snipes got a lot of negative attention about that. But my point is focused on Hancock in particular. If you look at the character that Hancock embodies, he is someone who was a womanizer. He was a drunk. He was someone who was convinced to even go into prison. If you guys can remember, he was homeless also. And my focus on that particular film is to encourage everyone to think about how this affects the mentality of the viewers. If you only get one or two black superheroes every century or whatnot, and they embody that role, how does that affect the perception of black people? Because I've never seen Superman touch a woman's backside or drink alcohol until he's drunk and convince himself to go into prison. Neither have I seen that of Spider-Man or any of the hundreds of Marvel superheroes. And if you like it or not, this has an effect on your psyche, your perception of yourself, others' perception of you, and thus, in effect, how you live, how you act. So that's to answer a lot of the questions I
I'll
got, in
say
particular when it came to
two
black
films that
superheroes.
have happened lately. There's 12 Years a Slave and there's Django, right? And we look at those two films that have happened, okay, which is like two of like the big black films over the past 5 years. Okay, the hero character in that couldn't get anywhere without the white man.
That's true.
Will Smith turned that part down, I think, if you remember, with Quentin Tarantino, because he was like, I want to kill the guy. Why can't I kill the bad guy? No, it has to be the white man to kill the bad guy. Same thing with 12 Years a Slave. I think it was Brad Pitt that literally come and lifted him out of the thing and put him there, sir. Like, for real? Come on.
But with slavery, that was probably the only way they could do it.
No. Come and check the Maroons, check Haiti, check all the things. I will
Yeah,
run up
but I'm
and
talking about in America.
in America.
There were many revolts.
But it's true, they should do a film in Haiti. What was the name? Or that guy, is it Marcus Garvey? Correct me? Yeah, Marcus Garvey. They should do films on that, but they don't want people to know all of that. But in America, I'm guessing that's how it was.
And how many people? And how
Boy,
many people would watch
oh,
it? That's the thing. Like, how many people would watch it? Like, Tarantino is a household name. So when Django came out, like people like were definitely going to watch it because it's Tarantino. If Tyler Perry decided to make a film about slavery or issues that are affecting the black community, like how successful would that be? How many African Americans would go out and see it? How many of us Black Britons would go out and actually see it? Because the films that Tyler makes are very I think he does the Medea franchise and stuff. And like I've never really seen him direct, something such as 12 Years a Slave or Django. So like, you have to kind of question our own community on that.
To butt in very, very swiftly. We're going to move on after this, but I don't think it's to do with the fact that black films are less attractive or aren't as marketable. There may be an aspect of that. However, I feel that there are forces in place that prevent films that show black people as the protagonists.
Yeah.
There are forces to prevent that, whether that's intentional or not. For example, I want the listeners as well as us speakers to Google a movie called Red Tails after we're done this podcast, and you will hear it's about black people who were flying fighter jets and how they were the protagonists, they were the superheroes. And if you read about the struggles that movie faced getting into certain countries and receiving a lot of support and interviews on it, you'd ask yourself a lot of questions. So I just encourage us to Google that when we're done. But moving on.
Okay, so the next topic is Kendrick Lamar's "The Blacker the Berry, the Sweeter the Juice," that broke the internet. And when it came out, for the most part, I thought it was very powerful. I thought the lyricism was very good. I thought it was very relevant with what was happening in Ferguson. But I wanted to almost analyze the song as a whole, and we've only got 5 minutes to do that if we're going to keep to the time. And so, Natty, you're a songwriter yourself, so maybe you can come in here. What did you think about the lyrics, just the lyrics, of "The Blacker the Berry, the Sweeter the Juice"?
I've got time for Kendrick Lamar still. I think that he does a lot of positive works, and even that tune there, yeah, it's real still. I would say that even within my musical journey, there's been certain doors that have been opened to me because of the color of my skin. If I'd have been a bit darker, them doors might not have been opened. So, yeah, timing is also important within the music industry. So we released it at a good time. Just like what D'Angelo done as well, in terms of I could feel a connection with what D'Angelo done within the same energy that has been brewing over the past year.
But what do you think about the comparison between black on black crime and the Black Lives Matter campaign?
Comparison? Which comparison between black on black crime?
In the song, did you not feel as if there was an undertone of we're sort of killing ourselves and then relating that to the Black Lives Matter campaign? Or did you not feel that?
Okay, yeah, no, I remember that bit, yeah. So, yeah, I hear you. I think this goes a little bit, and I hear him too. I think this goes a little bit to slightly what the sister was saying about Kanye and about taking relevance and ownership for what it is that we are putting out there. And in terms of how it goes hand in hand, and what the police are dealing with us, and essentially how the politicians are dealing with us, if we can't deal with ourselves and have knowledge of self and love of self up to a certain level, then yeah, we're in problems.
Yes, brother.
Mm-hmm. And Dele, I know you're having a bit of problems with your internet connection. Just want to come. What did you think about the song itself?
Okay, so yeah. So firstly, sorry about that again. But because we've only got a bit of time, I'm gonna try and like sum everything up together, right? There's one particular line that was sort of quite potent for me, and I think he said something like, "You vandalize my perception, but you can't take my style from me," right? And I think that's a very, very key line, because I think if you look at our history, right, for very long we've been oppressed, like, generally speaking, but still there's things that today they still want to take from us that they haven't been able to take yet, right? And it sort of links in with the whole sort of cultural appropriation thing. I don't think we should be worried if people are trying to emulate us, right? And I think what, as Natty's commented on like so many times today, we need to like focus on crafting our own narrative, if you know what I mean. But the only way we can do that is if we start owning sort of like media outlets. And this sort of sounds quite, I don't know, like, it sounds like I've heard this before, because like a lot of my friends, like, we speak about this a lot, right? And we need to control those outlets ourselves. Like, if we can start our own radio stations, our own newspapers, like me and Peter were talking about this yesterday, if we can craft our own narrative, like that would be amazing, because at the end of the day, no matter what we do, it's always seen as cool. Like if you see a black person do it, that's why there's so much to appropriate culturally, because I mean, like, no matter what it is we do, people like are interested in it, like they want to be involved in what we're doing, and as long as we can just shift slightly so that we can own that, I really do think that things will start to change like a lot more. And I think that's what sort of Kendrick was touching on, is that you can continue to do these things no matter what situation you put me in. I'm always going to bring something out, or we are always going to bring something out that you like, and that showcases our vibrance, that showcases the way we move, the way we think, just our like sort of wholesome view on life. And I think we just need to really start taking control of that narrative and start really flourishing, I guess.
I very much agree. And for those people who do make the comparison of how are we doing a Black Lives Matter campaign whilst there's still black on black crime, this notion of black on black crime is very problematic. I just want to address that really quickly. 93% of black victims were killed by black people. 84% of white victims are killed by white people, but we don't say white on white crime, we don't say Chinese and Chinese crime. So I just want to dispel that out of the picture before we move on to the next topic.
Could I quickly say something, please?
Go ahead, real quick.
The key verse that stood out for me is that he basically summarized cultural appropriation. He said, he vandalized my perception but can't take my style from me. And I think that literally summarizes what black people was, particularly, in fact, what black people have been going through for years. You take away everything for us. You try and seem like we depend on you, but you just can't take that style away from us. We're just creative. We're just in our blood. We're just always going to be cool, I guess.
Well, that was a nice
in our blood to exploit, though. That's the thing.
Sorry, I'm gonna have to stop you there. Let's move on real quick, because we need to finish. We've got about 7 minutes left. I will say, out of the issues that we've talked about today, actually maybe wider issues, what do you think we need to prioritize as a people and collectively address?
Each one teach one.
Do you want to expand on that, please, Dele?
So yeah, I'm definitely biting here, right? Because it's something that I saw when I was in like South Africa, right? And it was about sort of Nelson Mandela's time incarcerated, and how, because there was always eyes on them, they had to really secretly go about educating one another. So each person taught another person something. So something that I really believe in is that sort of like often we talk about ourselves not finding ourselves in certain places, right? So we're not CEOs, we're not MDs, we're not whatever. But at the same time, when you see sort of like the new the person who's just left uni and got a grad job somewhere, is he turning around and looking behind him to try and get like the guy who's in third year or the girl who's in third year to get that job too? If each one person that's doing something of significance right now in our community just turned around and helped one person, like, you double the amount of black people that are in those positions or doing those things that they might love doing, like in a year's time, and that grows exponentially because you're doubling every single time, right? That's one thing that I think we can focus on.
No, I think that's a very important issue. Mems, I was going to ask you the same question. What issues do you think we should prioritize? And as Dele said, how can we address that?
I think the issues that we should prioritize is always questioning the institutions. I think that wherever we are, whatever field that we're in, whether it be law, politics, what science, we always need to question the institutions and how it is affecting us. So, for example, one thing that I've just looked at is I've never been taught by a black lecturer at university. Why is that? You know, and that never was a narrative in my mind. I just had to question it. And because I've questioned it, I've actually only found out there's only one lecturer in my whole of my department. So now that's happened, I can actually go out and try and kind of investigate why this is happening. And totally echoing what was just previously said about teaching other people. Mentoring is so important. I've never been at university if someone didn't mentor me or told me so many opportunities was available. And that's why Vanguard Connect is here, because we've learned so many things through each other, through our networks. So just being open and just encouraging each other, and we can do what I really want as well, and just sending out information to as many people as we can.
I think that's really important. Even for myself, thinking about it, there is no other black female on my course. If I was just to turn around and help one other black female get onto my course, pass the interview, what have you, then that's somebody else, and perhaps she can do the same. So it's having the domino effect. I think that's really important. Peter, has there been any tweets before we go on to the next point?
But unfortunately, they refer to the topics that we've passed.
We've already passed. Okay, no worries.
Yes.
Okay, so on the Vanguard Connect page, I don't know if, Peter, you want to put a link on actually to the Vanguard Connect page. There was a discussion, and we're just going to briefly talk about this, on nose contouring. And someone posed the question. Someone posed the question about is nose contouring, are we trying to appeal to a Eurocentric standard of beauty, something along those lines? And Ptolemy had such an opinion about this and a rebuttal to this question. So do you want to go ahead and join in?
Like I said before you came on live, it's just okay, let's be real. Having a thin nose is okay. You can say, you can call it Eurocentric. However, I don't believe you can go around and say everyone who's doing it is being Eurocentric, for the simple fact that, number one, some people may not do it where it's so, like, okay, let me give an example of my nose. I don't know if the viewers can see my nose. If I'm giving myself as if I'm thinning hair, I just feel like I can't remember what I said, but it was a quote that this, for example, is like saying someone who's trying to lose a bit of weight is trying to be like those models they see on TV. And it's just like, number one, with makeup, the whole point of makeup is to take hide your flaws, to be honest. And if for someone they feel a flaw is maybe, oh, everyone's got a bit of their body that they may think they want to remove, or they wish was slightly looking differently. And if someone's doing it slightly, are they being Eurocentric?
Well, to me, as a black female, I don't feel like nose contouring correlates directly to being Eurocentric. I think, okay, maybe it can be in some instances that you want to look more European, but isn't it just a thing of sometimes just having a structured face with your cheekbones defined also, which is which we kind of simulate to sort of like Igbo people, which are black people. Isn't that just something that's in right now, rather than it being a Eurocentric, trying to appeal to a Eurocentric idea of beauty?
Why did the French blow the nose off the Sphinx?
Sorry, what did you say?
Why did the French shoot the nose off the Sphinx? They didn't shoot the lips or the eyes, it shot the nose.
Yeah. They really shot the nose. That's something you need to ask the French people. I'm joking. It's because they didn't want people to. I was making a joke. That's a good question, but
no, but we understand that they didn't want the
people to see the nose
appear black.
But I agree with.
But how does that correlate? How does that correlate to contouring? Not just your nose, your face in general.
Like I just feel like they put Eurocentric on everything. Even with structured cheekbones, like I said, I highlighted before, that I feel black people have structured cheekbones, whether you see it or not. It's not just white people. Stop putting a white tag on everything. Everything is not white. If you are contouring your nose to the point where you look like a completely different person, that your nose shape is absolutely literally like you've taken a few inches off your nose, I could say that yes, it's a bit questionable. But if it's just contouring, highlighting your features, and I don't think it's being Eurocentric. And also, I just don't believe, like, you can call something Eurocentric, but it doesn't mean that everyone who's trying to that's doing it is trying to be Eurocentric. So you can't really.
If I can,
Go on.
if I can quickly jump in here. Firstly, we've got a text from the Duchess of Brixton. Thank you for your text. You said that it started with the hair, now it's the nose. I'm guessing you're referring to people adhering indirectly or subconsciously to the Eurocentric perception of beauty there. What I wanted to say briefly is that, okay, firstly, whether you like it or not, you are affected by media. And again, whether we like it or not, we are constantly bombarded with, this word's been used a lot, Eurocentric. We are constantly bombarded, in the UK anyway, with the Eurocentric perception of beauty. That may affect you, it may affect your psyche and the way you behave, the way you perceive beauty to be without you knowing. There's that. However, it is important to say that even if you don't contour your nose, your face, or wear a weave or anything like that, you may still have a more messed up psyche of what beauty looks like. I think it's important to highlight that as well. I also wanted to pass the baton to my big brother Dele, because we had a chat yesterday and he had something quite interesting to say about, for example, clothes that people wear. We adhere to the standards of the West or European when we wear certain clothes. So Dele, if you could touch on that before we move on, please, bro.
Okay, yeah, you definitely had me shuffling there because I was really trying to remember what I said last night at 2 a.m. But but yeah, no, what I was saying was just so okay, fair enough. Like, let's just go with the notion that it's wrong to cater to a Eurocentric model, right? As far as your looks and your beauty is concerned. But if your problem is with the principle sort of being Eurocentric, then shouldn't that sort of apply to every aspect of your life? And my sort of question is, how far does it go? If it's contouring, is it also, you know, the clothes you wear? Because I know I didn't buy clothes from the market that are an authentic sort of, you know, tailor-made and you know, sewed from scratch. You know what I mean? So it's like, I mean, it's just in a practical sense, how far do you want to go, and do you have to actually stop all of these things, or is it enough to just have an understanding that some things have influenced your mind and then they won't do from now on, and you're gonna try and limit that effect, or, you know, just where does it stop really?
Mm-hmm. That's a very good question.
Thank you. Dele got to my point I was going to make.
Can I answer that?
Sure.
Yeah. I mean,
I think it stops with the body, no? When you have to bleach your skin, contour your nose, burn your scalp, I think that's where it stops self-hatred to the point where it's like, what are we doing to ourselves right now? Because the nose does have a representation. Sorry, go true. I don't want to.
No worries. I definitely agree.
No, I was saying to the sister because she was about to.
Oh, okay, cool. My bad.
I didn't want to know about the thing. You better hear it.
like, first of all, I personally don't contour my nose because I just don't know how to, and I just feel like so much effort and it's just a bit long, and I was like, no, I can't be bothered. Second of all, I feel that, definitely echoing what Peter said about, you know, for example, if you're a girl who's totally natural, who doesn't wear makeup, you know, who's like, I'm totally Cleopatra or whatever, you know, who wears a dashiki, like, that does not mean that you're, you know, more enlightened than someone that doesn't do that. I really want to echo that, because I feel that if you do wear, like, as a woman, you should have, because as a woman, you want to try new things. You want to sometimes change your hair. Like, I want to have straight hair sometimes, curly hair sometimes, and, you know, I feel that sometimes that kind of gets mixed up with the skin bleaching, with, you know, changing the actual structure of your nose to make you look more Western. Sometimes I think it kind of gets more confused with women just trying to be more experimental with how they look, because I want to change up my look sometimes, and I obviously know that I am a product of my environment, which is Western. But, you know, I do want to experiment with stuff, and I don't want to be judged by other women by saying, you know, you're being Eurocentric. Like, I just want to do what I want to do, type of thing.
Mems, do you think bleaching your skin is on par with contouring your nose?
No way. Because bleaching your skin, it literally does, like, everyone knows the health effects of it, that you can get cancer from it. And bleaching your skin is a more, like, a mental, I think, kind of something's kind of gone wrong. Like, everything the only thing you see, like, all you see is beauty. The only thing you see is beautiful is being light, and that's not true. With the contour of the nose, I think it's more of a fashion trend that's kind of taken off. Like, Kim Kardashian was one of the people that really, like, was the person that did the whole white kind of, like thing. Well, I lived with like 3 other girls. One's Asian, 2 of them are white. They're doing it as well. And I thought that it's just kind of a trying new things type of thing. I don't really think it's as bad as bleaching your skin at all.
And do you think that so can I just say, do you think as a black woman you find it frustrating that we're constantly being questioned about our beauty regime?
I mean, like, sometimes it gets a bit tiring, like, I'm very, as I said, I like changing up my style, and, if you're going to question, like, you can question me about it, but, like, don't be offended when I say it's, like, none of your business, because, if I want to wear 28 Malaysian straight hair that's raising my back, like, I can do that, like, I have the ability to do that, and you, as someone else, you can't really intrude on my right to do so, but that doesn't mean that we shouldn't really question when things such as skin bleaching are going too far, because it poses health risks. That poses like cancer, and you watch documentaries about children who are being taught to bleach your skin because it makes you look more beautiful. That's when we kind of need to start questioning ourselves. But no, don't judge me if I have strength.
I think
makeup.
I think it's very important that we understand why we are doing these things rather than being criticized all the time for doing these things. If I want to straighten my hair and I understand why I want to straighten my hair, then I should have the free will to straighten my hair. If I understand why I'm doing certain things, then it is up to me what I do with that knowledge. And sometimes I feel as if we're constantly being criticized. But with that being said, we need to round up this podcast. So I just want, do you guys want to
What about white women in afros? I want to say what about
that's a different one.
No, I'm just saying, what's the difference?
Can he bring it up? Because let him bring that up, because one thing I was saying is that where do you place black people with white features who have slim noses and things, and where do you place a white, let me say give women, where do you place white women with frizzy hair and black women with small features? It's because, do you tell a black person, if you saw a black person with a slim nose and maybe basically they looked naturally contoured, are you going to tell them they don't have African features? What are African features? What are white features?
I would say that
because I feel like we
sorry, sister, that wasn't what I was asking.
And we need to wrap it up.
Africa.
So can you just say your @name, and also you have projects that you're doing, so if you want to say your @name and say the projects that you are you want to advertise to the listeners, and we will be wrapping it up. So Adela, if you want to start.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, thanks everyone. My is @DelsV, so DELSV. As far as projects, they're all sort of stealth at the moment, so nothing to advertise there. But hopefully we can change that soon. Thank you.
No worries. Mems?
Hi, my @ is Mems Ayinla, AYINLA, and one of the projects that I'm currently doing is working with the Warwick Anti-Racism Society. We have a lot of things coming up in terms of looking at black academia and just trying to get more people who are black into universities and stuff. But definitely @me if you want to know more and stuff, yeah.
Great. Natty?
Yeah, so it's @Natty Music, and also @Vibes and Pressure, which is the record label that I started. So upcoming album is coming out in September. What am I talking about? In the summer. That's called Release the Fear. And we have compilation that we put out. Like I said, it's like pretty much the only that I've seen conscious and black-owned record label in the UK at the moment. It's called Vibes and Pressure. So check that out. And yeah, check out our compilation we put up, albums, rare, ... to be continued.
Thank you. And Tulani?
I don't have Twitter. However, you can @Peter and he will probably text me or post in Vanguard Connect, and yeah, I'm there. At the moment, we're working on something, but it's not official. So if you're on VC, I'll let you know when it's confirmed.
Great. Thank you guys so much for joining me. It's been a powerful conversation. Hopefully we've been able to learn from each other and take from each other. Peter, did you want to do a few shout outs, a few mentions?
Yeah. Firstly, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who's listening, who listened in, thank you to the speakers, because I understand and I know everyone's got their busy schedule, and it's so difficult to get everyone on board at the same time. I want to read out a few tweets as well to just keep everyone's mind stimulated as we finish. Miss Leicestershire, Ruth Mukete said, "Black women, or lately even black girls, have thicker lips, and it's accredited to people like Kylie Jenner. Why is it attractive or unattractive when it's on us?"
Oh, that's fake.
That's one. We have someone called Exodus and Upheavals. He said, obviously, a person's decision to try different beauty techniques are usually going to be multifactorial. And he says, but assimilating into Eurocentric beauty standards is often a huge part of why black women opt for certain beauty regimes. So we have that as well. And lastly, I just wanted to say a big congratulations to Johnny TM. He was the first black CEO of a company in the FTSE 100 with Prudential, and he recently moved to Credit Suisse as the new CEO of that Swiss investment bank. And as a lot of us know, the shares increased in Credit Suisse quite a bit, by 9% I think it was, and it decreased in Prudential. And it's important for us to celebrate and to highlight this, so we know that there are people out there doing fantastic things, and for people to know that that's something they can aspire to from the younger levels upwards. But again, everyone, thank you for listening in. Thank you, Naomi. Thank you, everyone else.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll wrap it up. Thank you very much, all the listeners, as Peter was saying, for listening. Thank you very much for tweeting. You can follow VC Podcast at Vanguard Connect. You can follow 20-something podcast at 20-something pod C. We are also looking for a team of people to help bring together this VC podcast on a regular basis or on a more consistent basis. So if you are interested, please tweet me or Peter and help us out. And so I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much, and we will see you next time.